do it.
Oh my god!
He's back!
I know these teeth.
Well, at least for a short while, for 3 feature-length Doctor Who specials to celebrate the 60th anniversary of this iconic show. But let's just quickly time travel back to the beginning. Born on the 18th of April 1971, David John MacDonald, or as we the public know him, David Tennant, plays arguably the most well-known and loved incarnation of the Doctor in BBC's Doctor Who. His history with the franchise goes way back, deciding at the age of around 3 or 4 that he wanted to become an actor, after being inspired by watching the weekly instalments of the hit sci-fi show. While studying at Paisley Grammar School, he wrote essays on how one day he wanted to take on the mantle of TV's favourite Time Lord. And well, eventually his childhood dreams became a reality. He also ended up marrying one of his favourite childhood Doctor's daughter, who also played the Doctor's daughter in the show, and technically is also the Doctor's wife. Yeah, it's
It is statistically quite unlikely.
yeah. But it didn't all start in 2005, with the surprise regeneration of the 9th Doctor into the 10th. No. That's only the tip of this Doctor Who iceberg. Tennant's first role in Doctor Who was many years before, but just how many roles has David Tennant played? How many characters has he contributed to the franchise in total? Let's dive in, because this is the David Tennant Doctor Who Iceberg Explained. That was a bit wordy, but I mean, at least it's not the David John MacDonald / David Tennant Doctor Who Iceberg Characters video explained, because I feel like that would be far less catchy. Also, for those of you who don't know how iceberg videos work, I'm kind of putting my own spin on it. The deeper below the surface of an iceberg you go, the more niche and obscure and hidden things you find. Or to be precise, the more incarnations of David Tennant playing a specific character in the Doctor Who universe you can find. I've got 5 tiers of icebergy goodness to go into, but yeah, let's just dive in before we explore some of the obscure and simply bizarre roles that Tennant has taken on in the Doctor Who universe. We'll start at tier 1, which is the most surface level and well-known of all his roles. Arguably the most iconic role he's ever played is right at the top of the iceberg, the 10th Doctor. As we all know, he played the role of the 10th Doctor, the 10th Incarnation, from 2005 to New Year's Day 2010. He had 3 seasons and a half, well, a mini-series of specials if you want to call that a season, but there's not much to say here. We all know, and for the most part love, the 10th Doctor. His era had the highest ratings in the modern show's history, and he firmly cemented himself in 2000s pop culture. He was a dashing, confident, bordering on vain hero for us all to look up to, with insane spiky hair, which no one other than him has seemed to master. He saved the universe in his Converse and pinstriped suits, but yeah, you all know this, you're Doctor Who fans, otherwise you wouldn't have clicked on this video, would you? Now, the next and only other role in this normie tier of public consciousness is the 14th Doctor. As of making this video, the current incarnation of the time-travelling Chad. This incarnation is probably shaping up to have a similar, if not identical persona to the prior mentioned 10th incarnation. We don't yet know what caused this degeneration, but it's looking likely it has something to do with Neil Patrick Harris's celestial toymaker, who's allegedly returning to face the Doctor once again this November. We do know, however, that this incarnation will not be around for long. He will feature alongside trusty companion Donna Noble and the rest of the Noble family, including Wilfred, Sylvia,
He's not there. You can't see him.
Sean,
You're home.
and Donna's daughter Rose, in 3 feature-length anniversary specials, before finally letting go of the role and passing it on to newcomer Ncuti Gatwa this Christmas. Yeah, that's right, Christmas specials are back. Well, with tier 1 out of the way, we'll move swiftly on to tier 2, where it starts to get a little bit more obscure, but you watching this video are almost definitely going to know these roles. First up in tier 2, the 11th Doctor. Yes. Yeah, you did hear me right, the 11th Doctor. I mean, I am being very pedantic with this one, but I'm going to count it nonetheless. In 2008's The Stolen Earth, the 10th Doctor is shot and killed by a Dalek, causing him to regenerate into himself. It's confirmed later on in 2013's The Time of the Doctor that this death and consequent regeneration did in fact use up one of the Doctor's 13 lives. Thus, in my view, it's only fair to consider it as its own incarnation-ish. So, for the sake of the video, David Tennant is the 11th Doctor, or Doctor 10.5, however you want to see it. This Doctor sits in Tier 2. Right alongside him sits the Metacrisis Doctor, half human, half Time Lord. Metacrisis 10 is the result of this Stolen Earth botched regeneration process. He's the Dr. Donner, a combination of the iconic duo with human aging and no regenerative abilities. He's as good as human. This Doctor left with Rose Tyler, staying in a parallel universe, or as they call it, Pete's world, for the rest of time. There is lots of expanded media which delves into their lives in that parallel world, but in the canon of the show, that's the last we ever see of this incarnation. Next, we plonk in 2009's Time Lord Victorious, created after the devastating events of the Waters of Mars, in which the Doctor, having lost everything, goes God mode. He states that the laws of time are his, and they will obey him. He tries to become a god, but his selfishness catches up with him, and he becomes the Doctor once more. While technically the same incarnation as the 10th Doctor, he gets his own cool title and multimedia spin-off, released back in 2020, where he wears a really snazzy Time Lord collar, thus it's only fair that he gets his own place on this iceberg in Tier 2. Next, we have John Smith, from 2007's Human Nature / The Family of Blood. This version of the character is a human who is created when the Doctor takes his DNA and uses a chameleon arch to disguise himself as an ordinary, boring person to avoid the detection of the Family of Blood. While only having a very brief life, he falls in love with Nurse Redfern and sees the potential life that he could have led. Children, marriage, a life that the Doctor, tragically, could never have. This short life is quickly taken away as the Doctor gets his memories back and defeats the Family of Blood. Also, a final little bonus incarnation to put down here is the 10th Doctor from Day of the Doctor. Yes, technically it's still just the 10th Doctor, but he looks different and has rubbish hair, and when I say rubbish hair, I mean, what on earth is this? It's always bothered me and will always bother me, but yeah, I'll stick him here. It's my iceberg, I can do what I like. The laws of icebergs are mine, and they will obey me. I didn't quite match the gravitas of David Tennant's performance there.
The laws of time are mine, and they will obey me!
First to sit in the 3rd tier is Russell T Davies. Well, David Tennant playing Russell T Davies. Okay, technically this isn't Doctor Who's official canon, but it's Doctor Who related, with Tennant in a new role. In 2009, Tennant, Tate and Barrowman created a musical parody of the song The Ballad of Barry and Frida, in which they changed the lyrics to The Ballad of Russell and Julie, as in Russell T Davies and Julie Gardner. It told the story of the revival of the show, where Tennant plays a very exasperated and quite panicked RTD desperately trying to meet Julie's demands for the series. I would definitely recommend it if you want to laugh. The next very quick one to mention came out this year in March for comic relief.
I've got to stop having them all-you-can-eat hotel breakfasts.
Lenny Henry regenerated into David Tennant. That's literally it. It's a quick entry, that one, but a funny one nonetheless. It's also worth noting, fun fact, Lenny Henry played an incarnation of the Doctor years ago in a little parody.
There's only one thing to do now, but I can't quite remember what it is.
Run up and down lots of corridors!
That was the one!
Where he fought a Cyberman Margaret Thatcher, which you can find it on YouTube, it's quite funny.
Thatcher?
The opposition have been brought to their knees.
Next is David Tennant as Lauren Cooper's English teacher for Comic Relief 2007. While this is only a short sketch, Lauren repeatedly asks Tennant if he's Doctor Who though. That was dreadful. And at the end of the sketch, he zaps her into a tiny figure of Rose Tyler, using the sonic screwdriver. Meaning this whole time, he must have been the Doctor in disguise? It's also worth noting that the pair reprised their roles in 2020's COVID relief for an online Zoom sketch. Another comedy entry here, also from 2007, we have a version of The Doctor in Ricky Gervais's Extras feature-length special, in which we see the Doctor face off against the evil Shlom, played by Gervais himself.
Not going to play an alien in Doctor Who.
Don't do it, Schlong. Leave me no alternative, Doctor.
This is clearly a parody of the less well-received Doctor Who episodes, such as Love and Monsters, the Slitheen two-parter, and other various classic serials. Claudia Cernbiz plays the Doctor's companion, however she does remain unnamed throughout the brief cameo, so in the comments come up with your best name for this non-canonical companion. Jumping a few years ahead into the future, we have The Muppets Show Live. Muppets Take the O2. Yes, that's right, somewhere out there is a mini crossover between Doctor Who and The Muppets, which obviously starred David Tennant. It's titled The Stolen Mirth, in reference to 2008's The Stolen Earth. Or on other nights, his father-in-law, Peter Davison, the fifth Doctor, would take on the same role in Mirth Shock, a parody of Earthshock. While brief, I'm still counting this as a new non-canonical version of the Doctor, especially as he looks much older and has a slightly different haircut due to the show taking place in 2018. Miss Piggy sends him to a regeneration chamber, and he metamorphosizes into various Muppets, finally settling on an incarnation of Miss Piggy dressed in the 13th Doctor's clothes. The next entry is one that starts a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Yep, that's right, this one is kind of a bit of a stretch, but technically, Star Wars and Doctor Who, the two sci-fi mega franchises, share the same universe. This is Hu Yang, an ancient Jedi training droid who, for over a millennia, taught Jedi Knights to construct their lightsabers and other cool Star Wars-y stuff. He's currently starring in the Disney Plus exclusive Ahsoka series. Oh, and, well, it goes without saying because he's on this list, but he is played by David Tennant. But where did he come from? Well, if we look into the official canon of the Star Wars universe, we find that he was so old that he supposedly arrived at the Jedi Temple in a big blue box thousands of years ago. Big blue box, you say? Now, due to the Clone Wars writer Dave Filoni being a huge Doctor Who fan, I think it's safe to say that this is a cheeky little nod that, I don't know, maybe the Doctor dropped him off into Star Wars land via the TARDIS many years ago. Someone in the comments come up with a canon explanation as for why he has the same voice as the 10th and 14th Doctor. Also, quick fun fact while we're here, Russell T Davies was asked by George Lucas way back in the early 2000s to write some seasons of the Clone Wars, but Russell turned him down. Chris Chibnall was also suggested, but I don't know, I think the plans fell through. Hold up, let me just quickly take an opportunity to ask you to subscribe. Only around 40% of you are actually subscribed to this channel, so please hit the subscribe button, please. Oh, and turn on the notification bell. Thank you, back to the video. Here we go. The penultimate, second to last tier. We're in the depths of the iceberg now. Welcome to Tier 4. The next versions of Tennant are technically the 10th Doctor, but changed up a little bit. First being the 10th Doctor in Dreamland, an animated Doctor Who story left to bridge the gap between Series 4 and the 2009 year of specials. This is just the 10th Doctor, but animated. And yeah, slightly terrifying looking, isn't he? Like, do we class it as canon? Who knows? There are also video game incarnations of this character, such as 2015's LEGO Dimensions 10th Doctor, although it is worth noting this playable video game character's dialogue was not recorded specifically for the game, rather his dialogue consisted of reused lines from prior episodes. However, Tennant did record specific dialogue for games such as 2021's Edge of Reality, which features the 10th and 13th Doctors. It's also quickly worth noting the Big Finish 10th Doctor audio adventures, which also feature Tennant's iconic portrayal of the 10th Doctor. Before the show came back in live action in 2005, there was an animated canonical continuation of the show in a form of webcast or webisode or something, which was called Doctor Who: The Scream of the Shalka, in which we saw Richard E. Grant, who would later go on to play the Great Intelligence as the 9th Doctor. This series is no longer considered canon, but what it did do is give David Tennant one of his first roles as the caretaker. Funny thing is, Tennant was not actually cast in this episode. Rather, he happened to be recording a radio play next door, and upon hearing that they were recording Doctor Who, he asked the director for a small role, and luckily was granted his wish. Little did he know that one day he'd be playing the Time Lord himself. Now, the next role on this iceberg is David Tennant playing David Tennant. In 2013, a short pastiche called The Five-ish Doctors was created, written and directed by T Davies, which featured classic doctors trying to put themselves into the 50th anniversary episode. Tennant played himself, aiding his father-in-law in this noble quest. Now, this one is utterly bizarre. In a Dead Ringers sketch from 2006, Tony Blair, the Prime Minister at the time, played by the wonderful John Coleshaw, regenerates into David Tennant, thus making a new David Tennant Doctor the Prime Minister of England. He says he's going to lead New Labour into a new age. The Master must have been very jealous as only a year later, Harold Saxon hits the scene. And finally, it's time to enter the deepest depths of this Tennant-tastic iceberg. That was quite difficult to say. She sells seashells on the seashore. There are quite a few very obscure characters that David Tennant's played, so let's bash through them in Tier 5. In the story Colditz, featuring the 7th Doctor and Ace, released back in October 2001, set in 1942 Germany, Tennant plays Feldwebel Kurtz, a Nazi officer. I definitely butchered that name, but I cannot speak German. According to good old TARDIS Wiki, he was vicious and delighted in harming the prisoners, especially the ones who tried to escape. And yeah, there's some more pretty dark stuff that he threatened to do to the 7th Doctor's companion Ace, which, yikes, let's steer away from that. It's not the normal sort of Doctor Who vibe. Luckily though, this horrible character met a gruesome fate as he was trapped between the outside world and the interior dimensions of the TARDIS, which painfully tore him into 1,000 tiny pieces. Another obscure role played by David is Colonel Ross Brimacombe Wood. Big Finish really don't go with simple names, do they? In audio adventure form, he confronted an eco-terrorist science man of doom who used weather machines to attack London. He was shot in the leg, but survived thanks to the help of Benny Summerfield and the 7th Doctor. The same character then appeared in comic form alongside the 5th Doctor in the story The Last Action Figure. Then finally, alongside Brigadier Bambera, he became a commanding officer at the UK branch of UNIT, which is where he gets his colonel title. Tennant also played a character called Daft Jamie. Fittingly, this was a Scottish character who lived in 1828 Edinburgh and was, well, to put it politely, quite slow. He was sadly murdered by William Burke, and much to the people's dismay, the 6th Doctor could not save him. But he did assure them that he will live on forever in the memories of the people. He also played a random Time Lord who was in exile in the story Medicinal Purpose, but that's all that's really known about this Time Lord, you bloke. And finally, in the 3rd Dalek Empire series, he plays Galanar, who was sent on a mission to discover information about the Daleks. He went to this sort of healing world place to try and find a cure for a plague which was devastating the universe, which the Daleks supposedly had. His quest didn't go too smoothly though, as he was interrogated by the Supreme Dalek, and he ended up killing his former partner. Oof. And well, there we are. All of the fantastic roles that Mr. David Tennant has played within the Whoniverse. Let me know in the comments how many of these roles you knew David Tennant played, because going into this video and researching it, I had no idea about half of these. Also, do let me know in the comments if I've missed any. I don't think I have. I've scoured the internet for any other sort of roles I can find, and these are the sort of conclusive ones I've come up with. But I might be wrong, let me know. Also, do subscribe to the channel because I'm working on a very, very big Doctor Who Iceberg video to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the show, so yeah, please turn on the notification bell and subscribe. But for now, that does bring a close to this video. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye!